Welcome to the Wealth Transfer. We've been talking a lot about gold and silver, but wait till you see where it goes related to oil. Stay tuned. All right, welcome. Let's get into this because going into now, I know the gold and silver part of it, we keep hearing stories about gold and silver. You see the commercials, I get it. This is not about that. This is about understanding the concept of what real money is, and then over time, what has really been some of the better, let's just say, storage of wealth or building of wealth. If you just, for instance, just take silver, for instance. Silver, when it came off the standard, the gold standard in the 70s, it was a 1-to-1 ratio, right? Meaning 1 ounce of silver. Now, this is 1 ounce. This is really more for illustration. It's actually a few ounces, right? But here's $1. So back in the day, the 1 ounce of silver and the $1, they were equal. You take it to the bank and you could exchange them and they were no problem, right? Well, then the dollar bill, or silver per se, kind of got ditched. Then it became the Federal Reserve note, right? Well, at the time, they were equal. And at that period, you could say maybe 20 cents a gallon of gas, right? So they both bought you 5 gallons of gas. Well, now here we are today. The dollar is no more backed by silver. The dollar is a Federal Reserve note, so it's actually a slave instrument because a note is really an IOU, meaning somebody owns you, but it's not backed. So today, here's your dollar. Today, here's your silver, right? If I go and sell my silver today, remember they both bought 5 gallons of gas. If I go sell my silver today, do you know I can not only buy the same 5 gallons of gas, I can buy almost 8 gallons of gas. Well, it depends where you're at and what region, right? But the point is you can still not only buy the same, you can buy more. So a storage of value over time from the 70s until today, silver has not only maintained its buying power, but it actually buys you more than it used to. Now remember, silver was our dollar. United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, grains of silver was defined as money. So silver was our dollar. Now we take the dollar. Back in the day, it would buy the same 5 gallons of gas as silver, right? Today, how many gallons can you buy with this? I know. That's shocking when you think of it that way. You can barely buy a quarter gallon, depending on where you're at, half a gallon, right? So it used to buy you 5 gallons, now it buys you half a gallon. Used to buy you 5 gallons, still buys you 5 and more. What do you want in your wallet, you see? Now, obviously, we can't store silver in our wallet, but the illustration is merely a storage of value over time is the definition of money. And so what I just explained to you is the ultimate simplest way of looking at if you had stored silver, or your grandparents had stored silver instead of this stuff in a bank, you would be infinitely wealthier. Now, don't get mad at your grandparents because the system did a really good job of brainwashing us, but it hasn't changed. The equation has not changed. When these were equal, it meant 1 ounce of silver was equal to $1. Today, this very silver from that time frame has gone up 1,700%. Now that is added value and wealth, folks, you see? And it doesn't change going forward. It's just we're in this hyperbole narrative of investing. Our world has really been conditioned, or even we in the West have been conditioned to understand that this stocks and bonds, which are titleless, pieces of paper worth nothing more than the cotton, are the way to go. Now, most of the top 50 corporations in the world, guess what they are? That's right, finances, banks. So you see, our world is geared towards this, and all they're doing is spinning and churning fake valuations, and yes, it's creating wealth. But that wealth can be evaporated real quick during epic shifts of culture and global shifts like World War I, World War II, and such. I'm contending some other epic shift is around the corner. And that's why I think I'm so passionate about this. I've been doing this for about 5 years, which is about right. I think I've been involved in the commodity side of things for quite some time. But as far as the physical, tangible, and into the refining side of things, I realized there's something shifting. And for the last 5 years or so, we noticed that the narrative flipped. And maybe they always used to kind of lie and mislead, but it seems like today more than ever, they're pretty much lying about everything. Everything. It is astonishing to me how divisive our culture is. And I'm talking everything, forget politics, everything from politics down, lying about everything. They lie about almost. And sometimes it's only a half lie, but it's untrue. And so we're in a culture that is becoming very dishonest, and if you want to protect and preserve yourself, you better be in the right place. So I was out doing some research because we're going to do a documentary sometime here, and I was over in Idaho, and I saw this sign. I was in the Silver Valley area there of Kellogg. They took more than 1.2 billion ounces of silver was mined in that Silver Valley region. And today, it's a big kind of almost like a valley of tailings. Now, I personally, there's silver in that tailings, but they obviously don't care about that. But they have extracted the silver out of that region in the day. Now, the reason they did that, of course, is because, silver was our money. And the silver was very paramount to, our wealth. But it's gone. You see, back in the day, we had, and this was coming off of the gold standard, we had about 12 billion ounces of silver above ground. So it was everywhere. Hence the phrase junk silver. But today, it's not like that. Today, maybe, now you're going to see different numbers if you look, but I'm telling you, I'm in the refining. Today, it's about 700 million ounces left above ground. We're not finding new sources. We're open pit mining. And next to what's being hoarded, we're using it up. We've been net negative on the deficit of silver for 14 years. So we are using and consuming more annually than we mine and recycle. So it's a really big deal. We have consumed the silver we have taken out of our ground as a nation. And everyone asks, well, where is it? And I'm going to say, it's the TV you're watching right now, the computer screens, biomedical technology, most medical equipment in the hospitals lined with silver because of bacteria fighting. Satellite systems, alternative energy, solar cell systems, I can go on. And unfortunately, a lot of it ends up in the trash dump. The mirrors in your bathroom and in your house, all silver lined. No metal has ever been able to be as perfect of a reflection and hold the heat that silver does. So that was kind of a little side note, didn't really want to go there, but it illustrates why I believe the East knows that there is true value in the money of the world all through history in gold and silver, and is why they're doing it. So we're talking about, as the East is doing this, China going into the gold and the energy. Now, here's what's interesting. You can't be a reserve currency in the IMF basket and be gold backed. So the Chinese yuan is not gold backed yet. Watch how they do this. But you can't be gold backed. But so the Chinese are in now the IMF basket. They're a reserve currency of the world next to the dollar and a few others. And they're getting ready to take a huge dominant role. I contend by the time you're watching this one, it's already going to be live and active. Wait until you see how this evolves. Because at the Shanghai Gold Exchange, they don't mess around with the derivative stuff. They do the physical delivery, and if people take it out, they encourage their people to own the physical gold and silver. Now, from the Chinese point of view, it's because history, when they have done that, when they got in trouble financially, they just confiscate the gold and silver from the people because they're communists. They'll just kill you. So it's a little bit easier. But the Chinese have found a way around it. Now, I'll contend and say they didn't find a way. They set it up. This is brilliant. Remember the last program, I believe, I was talking about how the Chinese are all over the world number one buying up hard assets like gold mines and iron ore mines and things of that nature. They built the largest oil refinery in the world in Saudi Arabia. Why? The Chinese are going to back their oil contracts that are getting ready to come onto their futures exchange at the Shanghai with gold. Oh, I'm sorry. They're going to do it with the yuan currency backed by gold if you want to convert it. How do you like that one? So the currency is not gold backed, but the oil which runs the world is going to be backed by the currency that can be converted to gold. Gotta love that. So I have to take a quick break, but let's do that. We'll be right back.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So I do encourage you, real quick, before I get going, I know I'm going to say this a little more often because I know information is important. So I know I started to do this in my Twitter, in my Twitter feed. I try to always put out real relevant headlines that you're probably not getting anywhere else. So it's kind of nice to have. But the Cornerstone Facebook page, I know, is going to be like a newsletter. And so if you like them on Facebook, they'll actually post in your timeline, which I think is a great idea because it won't be average stuff. It's going to be very unique information that I think will help you not only diversify yourself, but feel comfortable with your knowledge because this world is not talking straight. So I just encourage you to do that if you're in the social media stuff. But the Chinese going into oil, they know oil is the ultimate currency. Without oil, we don't do anything. Without oil, you're not there. Your TVs and everything else. Now, we have nuclear power and we have coal, but oil is a different type of story here. So oil runs the world. Every nation needs it. Back in the day, in the 70s, when, as I explained in the petrodollar series, the United States was real smart when they made an agreement with Saudi Arabia. And they said, this was in the 70s, and they said to Saudi Arabia, who ran OPEC, that if you control all the oil, so if you price your oil in dollars, then we'll have a dominant in the dollar, and the world will want the dollars, and this is kind of a love relationship. And in return, we will protect you militarily against the tyrants in the Middle East. It was a great arrangement, and it's going away. Because you see, the dollar, with the relationship with Saudi Arabia, the dollar and oil were interconnected. Now, most of us, we the people, we believe that the petrodollar was merely just profit, how much money we're making on oil. But it really wasn't. It was about the fact that the whole world needed a dollar bill in order to buy oil. Brilliant plan, because now they needed to store these dollar bills in their reserve bank in order to continue to buy the oil. It was just very, very important. And then, of course, Saudi Arabia played along because we protected them militarily. Now, on my theory, which would probably be close to pretty accurate, that's why we're cozying up to the Saudis so much. When you think about it, folks, the Saudis are probably the most evil, tyrannical nation in the world. I mean, they may not be communists, but they're Islamists, and it doesn't get any worse. They're Wahhabists. They come from the partners of the Nazis back in World War II. It's why the Wahhabism started. They are so darn hardcore cruel in their country. I mean, they'll cut your hand off, kill you, genital mutilation. Women, you might as well, you're just a dog. Homosexual, they're throwing you off the bridge. They're mean. And you'd ask yourself, why are we tolerating that? It's because they control the oil, you see. And I believe, this is purely my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if going to war in Iraq and the things in the Middle East were all these Saudis telling us we need to do it. President Trump was the first one I've seen that said, no way. He goes over there, says, nope, do it yourself. And what you never saw in the headlines probably, folks, when he went to Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, everything changed. You'll notice the whole Qatar attack with the Saudis, because the Qatars were more of the Clintons, and it just gets deep. But the point is, he goes over there and he changes the deal. And then he says, nah, and he gives them $300 billion in military equipment. That tells me he told them, you go to war, you do it yourself. I'm telling you, this is brilliant stuff, but you didn't see it reported that way. But all I know is it shifted and it changed. And the Chinese, being that they built and financed the largest oil refinery in the Middle East, you'd be quite surprised where the Chinese fingerprints are on the relationships. Now, the Qatar deal, for instance, they share their land, their gas field. Qatar's the third largest gas in the world. Now, I can't get into it. You should go back and see the past series on the petrodollar. It's phenomenal. But Qatar was the design. They needed Syria out of the way. They were going to use Qatar pipelines, and it was going to undercut Russia. Russia was going to be out of the supply of energy to Europe, and we would have destroyed Russia. That was the grand plan. It completely backfired and failed. The last administration was miserable at how they executed the policies of that attack to defend the petrodollar. Miserable. They lost just about every contest, especially the red lines with Syria. All that was false flag and fake. But we lost. The petrodollar got eroded, you could say. And then what happened? Then we do this weird Iranian deal, you remember? Yeah. Remember the $150 billion? And what's that illegal transfer of $400 million in cash? What a criminal, corrupt group they were. We were. But the Iranian deal, there was nothing good about that. Because as soon as they got the money, they formed this trilateral. Iran, China, and Russia. And here we go. We let Iraq completely collapse. The last administration let everything we did militarily fall apart. We then fund and train ISIS, which backfires on us. They were supposed to take Assad out, backfires completely. Oh, by the way, they only raped and pillaged and destroyed women and children that were Christians. But God forbid that was an issue, right, back in the past years. But it was a horrible time. Now, we lost the petrodollar narrative in the Middle East. The Chinese have the fingerprints now. The Chinese are right next to the Iranians. The Chinese are now buddying with Russia. The Chinese are backing up Russia in Syria. You don't know that, but they're there. And who else is there in the middle to the northern regions of Iraq? That's right, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They're all in control, and China's their buddy. None of them like us. Now, the Saudis tolerate us because we're still pushing money around. Now, how all this kind of comes together is we've lost the petrodollar, the relationship. It's still in effect, but we're losing it. And we're losing it quickly. And if we lose that, nations no longer need this to buy oil. And if we have more printed currency in the world than we've ever had, if we have 20 trillion in deficit and debts we have now, 60, 70 trillion in unfunded liabilities, IOUs, hence pension systems as well. Wait till you see a series I'm going to do on that. Pension systems are seriously in trouble. And the stories of them failing out there are everywhere. They're just mainstream's not telling you. So if you think you're going to rely on pension, you better cozy up the cash you have on the side and get yourself some physical silver. But that petrodollar deal is going down. These countries have now come together and formed alliances. Now, I call it the Eurasian Trilateral, and There's many names I'm using, but it's all part of that Silk Road we've been talking about. Now the Iranians are empowered, and they had the money. They have now the relationships with the Chinese and the Russians backing them. They're ready to go. So I know the petrodollar deal is going down because the Chinese are in all aspects of Middle East development. We're still doing strong, paying people off, but folks, nothing like we needed to. We can't afford it anymore. Remember, in the 70s, when we made this deal, we were the world's largest trading nation. I'm sorry, well, beyond trading nation, we were the world's largest creditor nation. We gave everyone money. It's because we were printing it out of thin air in the 70s when we went into the fiat standard. And by the way, the baby boomers were just beginning to earn wealth and pay into the system. Today, we're literally the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. We have more debt than any nation has ever accumulated in the history of the world. And our baby boomers, which is one of our most productive generations, are now retiring to a tune of $10,000 a day, coming off of taxes and going on to these unfunded liabilities. It is an explosive event to our standard of living way of life. And with the Chinese making the move on oil, we're going to get into more details of this, but with the Chinese making that move, you're going to see it coming quicker than you think. Now, I know this seems macro, but understand it's vital for we the people to have this education. Vital that we have protection and preservation, and it's not just of our individual wealth, our retirement wealth, so our inheritance to our children's children is there, but it's also for our churches and our ministries. And you just have to know that it's not business as usual. What I'm showing here at the Wealth Transfer is enough to at least put the signals up for you to be protected. So I have to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So what I got into in the Middle East describing that, believe it or not, it's pretty accurate. We've done a couple different series of the petrodollar, and I really encourage you to go look at those series because you'll really become more educated on why we've been at war and why all this stuff in the Middle East. It's all tied down to not the profit for oil. It's tied down to this hegemony and superiority as a reserve currency, and I mean reserve currency meaning as a dominant force of trade and financial transactions. See, this is what it comes down to. Do they do transactions financially in the dollar? Do they do trades in the dollar? Well, folks, what you're seeing now, and I mean by a dozen, if not more, countries are now doing trade in their own currencies, bypassing the dollar. That's what I'm talking about. When these Chinese actually depeg from that dollar, that's when the hammer falls. I contend they're waiting. They're taking in more gold. They're positioning things. But all I know is it's soon enough. And in a global order sense, if you're a conspiracy type person, the elites put this out way back in the 80s on The Economist magazine when they said in 2018 there's going to be a phoenix rising, and the phoenix standing there on a pile of global burning cash, and around its neck is a gold medallion, and it says 2018. And that was in the 80s they did that. So ironically, that's pretty much what's taking place, and it amazes me on the timeline, plus or minus. But I know it's going down. So what does that mean to us, it's going down? Well, it's our standard of living. It's our ability to buy. It's our ability to do trips and our inheritance to the children's children. Our ability to, and this is where I'm getting at, support our churches, our ministries, those that are doing the most good in society. If we in the kingdom if we're storing this when this happens, and this means stocks, bonds, anything paper, if we're in this during this next one, you think 2008 was bad? That was nothing compared to what's getting ready to come. You better make sure you have a balance. That's all I'm going to say. Because the Chinese, they're doing the crude oil benchmark backed by gold. They're so smart I can't handle it. So they can't have their reserve currency, their currency in their reserve basket at the IMF and be gold backed. So what do? You create an oil futures contract on the Shanghai, convertible to yuan, and the yuan, if you don't want the yuan, convertible to gold. This is going to be interesting. So I'm going to get into a lot more of this next time. I'm going to kind of leave you with that because you're going to want to stay tuned to see how this plays out. But the Chinese backing up oil with gold, their currency becomes a gold-backed currency without actually being a gold-backed currency. It is brilliant. And that is going to be the biggest nail in the takedown of this Federal Reserve slave note we've been handed for the last 50 years. And so I just really encourage you to continue to be open. If this is the first time you've seen the program, go into the archives. Go check out some of the past programs. Don't watch them too many consecutive. I could probably be too much, I know. But understand that this macro vision is laid out with facts and is the reality. America has overstepped its place. We have become kind of corrupt in the world's eyes. Maybe we always were, I don't know. I do believe we had a moment of character and integrity. I really do. Something's changed. And in the last decade and a half or so, something's changed drastically. All I know is we are getting ready to see something we've never seen before. Something we will probably never see again. And America's in a normalcy bias, meaning intelligent people who are in denial because they haven't seen it or been part of it. And folks, I don't want to see you be in denial. I don't want to see you wake up when that moment happens and go, I wish I would have listened. Get protected, get preserved. God bless each and every one of you. Catch you next time.